Hey everyone, this is Chris Kies for Premier Guitar, hanging out at the Nashville's Exit In. This doesn't look familiar to you if you watch all of them. We're actually backstage. We are hanging out with Steven from Mutoid Man. Steven, how you doing?
Doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you very much. Between time and you guys showing up late and Boris just owning the stage with orange amps and cabs, you're gracious enough to come backstage, bring your gear, load it up, and just pretend like this is where it's going to be. So appreciate it. I've talked enough. I want to hear about this guitar. Talk to me about this guy.
Well, this is the Aria Pro 2XX MS. MS for Michael Schenker from the Scorpions. And, you know, actually Nick Cageao of Mutoid Man sent me a link to this guitar. It was being sold on Reverb. Someone was selling it, so we had a little bit of haggling back and forth. And finally, I was like, look, $420 is my final bid, and I can't go any higher. This guy thought that was pretty funny, so that was it. Yeah.
And Nick already had Aria bass, right? He was already rocking the Arias.
The Aria Explorer,
okay.
I think from the same year. Yeah, 85.
And what have you had to do anything to it, or to keep it running, or upgrade it anyway?
No, I mean stock pickups. You know, Mutoid Man plays in standard tuning, dropped a half step with the top string dropped down to a drop B style. So in this instance, it would be drop A sharp.
So kind of like a Tool / Soundgarden.
Exactly. You know, Rusty Cage, Prison Sex.
Yep.
So that's pretty much it. Just getting it set up for that, and you know, it's built for speed. It's light.
Yeah, it looks fast.
Yeah, you know, it's not like wearing a tree trunk, so that's nice for me.
Were you privy to the V's before, like you know the Gibson Flying V's or even the Jackson Kelly?
Never really got into playing V's until I got this thing a little over a year ago. I love it. There's all this space up here to just be noodly.
Access. Yeah, fret access to the max. And what strings are you running? Gauge?
Oh, I just started using the NYXL
from
strings.
D'Addario.
Yeah.
D'Addario.
Yeah. They're great. It took a minute to really get used to them because they take a little bit more stretching out. But once they're locked, they last way longer, and your fingers can just kind of fly around on them. So it's pretty nice.
Are you using like 9s, 10s?
What are these? These are, I believe, 10s. And then the top string is like sort of the bottom heavy style, so would that be like a 53?
Yeah, maybe 53 or 54 maybe?
Yeah.
Something heavy to take that drop A.
Yeah, and to, you know, rumble down in the sludge and not have it totally feel like a piece of yarn.
Yeah. Going back to that tuning, is that something that inspires riffs, or is it just something for you to have that rhythm chunk, whereas you can still play the rest of the neck and the frets in standard tuning?
Well, I've been playing this tuning for a while now. Definitely discovered it from Tool, you know, that song specifically, Prison Sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
because it sounds like a bass.
Yeah, totally. And when Ben and I started jamming together in Mutoid Man, just as a two-piece, before we even called Mutoid Man, the name of the band was Narcoleptic Beagle.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
It's a pretty sweet name, man.
No one else had taken it, shockingly. So we were just jamming in a small practice space together, you know, like his crash cymbal was right up in my face, and it was fun and sweaty and just kind of wild, but it was just the two of us, so we didn't have a bass player, and so I was like, well, here's our bass player, I'm going to drop this thing down and we'll write some tunes that way. And plus, when you have a whole set kind of in the same tuning, you can bang through songs pretty quickly. There's not a lot of waiting around, kind of adjusting from one song to the next.
Yeah.
And for Mutoid Man, that works really well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I associate you, Perry associated you with like Gibson Les Paul Studio. I know you from the S1. Mm-hmm. Are those on tour with you, or is the Aria taking over for everything?
I got the S1 out with me in case this bad boy breaks down. Okay. Luckily, it hasn't so far, but we'll knock on
wood.
Plastic, wood, whatever this thing's made of. The S1 is great. So is the Les Paul. You know, they still hold a special place in my heart and for my fingers.
Yeah.
You know, the Les Paul actually used to be my dad's. I remember going to Daddy's Junkie Music in New Hampshire in 1993 and watching him haggle with the guy behind the counter on a price, and, you know, getting a case to be free with part of the deal. And I was like just blown away because here's this guitar that Slash from Guns N' Roses, you know, is famous for playing, and he was like the dude for me growing up. I was like, you know, if I could just rip like him, maybe life would be a lot easier. Just being like a nerdy townie growing up trying to find his way.
Yeah.
So that guitar really holds a special place in my heart because it was gifted to me by my dad at some point when he saw that I was, you know, really taking guitar playing pretty seriously. And so I try not to take it out on the road these days that much. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, totally understandable.
Yeah.
And how did you get to the S1? Because, again, Gibson, Les Paul, Flying V, S335s. S1 doesn't come to mind. So how did you get your hands on such a kind of oddball guitar?
You know, I just was looking for a new axe at some point. Just kind of skimming around on eBay back in like 2000, 2001. And it just looked like such a cool guitar. For me, it was a total fashion over function kind of purchase, you know. It was like $500. I later came to realize that Paul Stanley used to champion these things back in the 70s. You know, it's got the bullet headstock. It just looks kind of badass.
Yeah.
And it was a Gibson, obviously, so I just took a chance on it. It's got a bolt-on neck, which is fun for me because I really like to play and like kind of yank on the neck to bend the strings a little bit and give it that like warped record kind of sound.
Yeah.
You know, if you're ringing out a chord and it just, you know, just bend the neck a little bit. That's pretty fun. And yeah, so I could do all those things with it. And again, just a total like sort of shot in the dark. It's just weird to buy a guitar you've never actually played before.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing's great. I had it rigged though with a humbucker because normally it comes with 3 single coil pickups. And as much as I love Fender, you know, it doesn't really do it for me in these settings.
Yeah.
It's more of like a recording guitar for me, that style and that sound. So I had it rigged with a humbucker in the bridge pickup position. And it's cool, actually the wiring makes it so that...
yeah, it has some like phasing options, right? With the notch, or I feel like it has out of phase. There's something special to the wiring of the guitar that makes it unique.
I think you can mess with the phasing on some models a little bit, or that might be the Sonics. I can't quite remember, but the guy that I had working on it, his name's Jay Canava, and he works out of Boston. I also had another company, Meridian Guitar, do some work on it. And between all those guys, we rigged it so that it's like Fender, and then humbucker, Gibson. So it's like a Gibson Fender kind of mashed into one
perfect combination.
body. Yeah,
for
it's pretty cool.
Well, we covered guitars, I guess plural being the hypothetical ones we talked about. Let's go right into the amp, man.
Cool.
How did you get, not stuck with it, but how'd you land on the Model T?
Again, it was a total sort of like, this looks cool, fashion over function kind of purchase, you know? And I was at Black Market Music sometime in 2001, and I don't think Black Market's around anymore, unfortunately, but if you were in LA at some point when it was open, that was the place to go if you were just like a gear nerd, or if you were like having hard times, that was the place to sell your stuff. So you'd walk in and there'd be like Perry Farrell's like 8-track cassette recorder, you know, on sale, or like, you know, you'd see like Soundgarden road cases kicking around and
Just random trinkets and cool shit.
yeah. So this was kicking around and I was pretty fascinated by it. You know, it just kind of looks like the head of like one of those 1950s Lost in Space robots or something.
Yeah, right. Especially
know?
in the double stack here.
Yeah. If you just get some arms for it, you'll be good to go. But yeah, it's loud, you know, and all the bands I've ever played in have been loud as hell. So this thing, I guess, is 400 watts, which is...
I know that Buzzo from Melvin's, he rocks it. I don't think it's a Model T, but yeah, and it's just volume. Volume for days.
Oh, yeah. I'd imagine playing with Dale Crover, you need all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I paid... How much was this thing? It was like $500 or $600.
That's kind of your ceiling, huh? The $500 sweet spot. You got the 420 for that.
Yeah.
You got the 500 for the or the other one, and you got about 500 for this.
Exactly. And I think with the popularity of the band Sun, you know, those guys playing these amps and the band itself, you know, it's sort of created this interest in Sun amplification to the point where like a Model T from this era, which I believe is a 75. They go for like $2,000.
Damn.
Upwards of that, you know. I don't know. I mean, I love how blown out the mids are. It's like, it's not so much warm as it is kind of like just some fucking feral cat just sort of like scratching at your chest, you know, kind of hits you in that way.
I've never heard an amplifier described like that, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. And so that's basically the deal with the amp. It's been pretty reliable for most of the time that I've had it. Knock on wood.
Plywood of some sort?
Yeah. The cabs are Fender reissues.
Okay.
And I actually got a Model T Fender reissue head and plugged it in, and I was very unimpressed because I think just being used to the power and the awesomeness of the old school models,
yeah,
they didn't really go that route with it. So I sold that, but I kept the cabs, and yeah, just 4x12 Sun, you know, sort of the old school design. And these things have been around the world.
I can tell, man.
Yeah. Loaned them out to various bands and such, so the speakers are in varying degrees of quality. I think we marked out 1 out of the 8 here that are like semi-decent. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Kind of adds to your sound too, I imagine, you know, having all this in the equation rather than having a brand new amp and a brand new guitar.
Yeah.
As much as it would be nice to have, I'm sure, but this is kind of all adding up to making your own, you know, your own formula, your own recipe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 70s child, so this thing being made in 75, you know, we get along nicely.
You guys speak the same language.
Totally.
Do you record with that? I know that obviously you've recorded a couple albums with Kurt Ballou from Converge.
Yeah.
And at least in interviews I saw with that, you guys use the Titan a lot, the Gibson Titan out of his collection. Did this see any recording on the new one, War Moans or anything like that?
You know, I don't recall us busting this out for War Moans, but for Bleeder, I'm pretty sure it made its way into the overdub sort of part of the making of that record.
Gotcha.
But the Titan was great because it just pumps out a lot of low end into the mic in front of it without the low end sort of, you know, clouding up the room. And so that was great for Mutoid Man because the way that we were recording was, you know, it was the 3 of us with all our amps blazing in the same room as Ben, playing the drums. We got baffles up to cut out the sound a little bit, but not that much. I mean, the Titan was like blasting into the overhead drum mics, and we just kind of worked with it a little bit. There was more isolation created for the recording of War Moans. You know, we had more baffling up and isolation and, you know, the foamy walls, and so...
Was that just because of the time constraints? Because I know with Bleeder you guys had you went in there without the whole album written, and then you guys kind of squeezed it all in a 10 to 9 day period.
Yeah.
Did you have a little bit more time with War Moans where you could set up and kind of, all right, let's have a little bit more baffling, let's have a little bit more separation between each one?
Yeah, Bleeder was 9 days of tracking, a little bit of writing, and mixing, which felt insane.
Yeah.
And we got it done somehow. Like, we were down to the wire with that one. War Moans, we had a little bit more time booked, but we somehow spent it all on the tracking. We had this grand idea that we were going to sort of do the same thing again like we did with Bleeder and mix it all, but that wasn't the case. We had to postpone mixing until like a month later. But it was kind of nice because that in-between time, we got to do some overdubs and create some sonic ear candy.
Yeah.
And basically send more stuff for Kurt to do. And, you know, you look at his session and it's just like, the tracking was just like stacked, you know. Probably a bit of a headache for him, but, you know, he did such a great job on it.
Working with a guy like him, being a guitar player, obviously for Converge, and being a producer for the genre, was there any gear influences that have come from hanging out with him and being a friend of his, and that has made your way into your rig or recordings?
Yeah, actually, for the recording of the song Beast from Bleeder, he was the one who suggested the super shifter here for the dive bomb effect that happens a couple times in the song. And, you know, growing up playing a 65 Jaguar Harmony, with this like janky whammy bar. I could just never get down with the fact that every time I'd use it, the whole guitar would fly out of tune.
Oh, yeah.
So I just never really acclimated to a whammy bar for that reason. Just kind of kept my hands free of that sort of thing. So this was like, oh, here's a whammy bar. That's not going to send my guitar flying out of tune. And then from there, I got the pedal and I put it on the board because we were playing that song live, and I started using it in more of the tunes, and eventually decided, well, I'm going to need two of these now, one that goes down and one that goes up. So Sam Brodsky over here, hi Sam, he loaned me one so that I could go up and down. So that is all over the new Warmones, or the new Mutoid Man record, Warmones. Yeah, and it's fun, you know, it's just more stuff to do with my feet, more tap dancing. Yeah, if you press them both together, you know, you really get sort of a schizophrenic
Well, let's
effect.
do that. We've gone through the amp, we've gone through the pedal. Let's get into or the guitar and amp. Let's go to the pedal board. Talk to me what you got on your board and how are you using it.
Sure. All right. Well, let's see. We'll start with, well, this is my tuner. And let's see.
Is your distortion still at the end of the signal? The OS?
Yeah, you know, I know it's sort of unorthodox to do it that way, but
What's your method behind it? Why?
the reason for it is I like the distortion to kind of color all of the effects, and so that you know, you have a wide range of effects. They all sort of sound different. They have their different levels, and some of them sound a little cheesy on their own. So if they're all kind of getting squashed through the distortion, to me that's sort of like the same effect as compressing a signal. But you're compressing it with distortion, you're giving all the effects sort of the same sort of sizzle, kind of unifies them all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know it can get kind of cloudy, but I don't care. You know, it's all loud and wild anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, so this is the OS2.
When does that get kicked on? Because, I mean, I imagine in a setting where you could turn it up, you probably have the amp cooking pretty hot?
Yeah, so the idea is, you know, I've got the OS2 dialed in with the distortion and the overdrive at about 9 o'clock, which is pretty subtle for this pedal. But with the Model T sort of turned up past like 3, and you really kind of get the tubes sort of cooking and all the electronics working. You get a nice mix of the amp distortion, that 70s sort of like, you know, proggy.
Let's hear it.
You know, it's like a nice hairy bush from, you know, a Penthouse issue from the 70s or something, you know. So, all right, so on its own. You know, it's sort of buzzy and warm, and that's pretty much the amp distortion on its own. But then when you rig up the OS2, so it's a little crunchier, sharper. You get like that sort of Slayer, Rain in Blood, mid-range tone. It's pretty nice.
The
Actually,
harmonics are there too.
yeah.
I'm sure they can get it with the amp too, but yeah, I'm sure they pop out a little more with the pedal on.
Yeah, so this has been my go-to for years now. Actually, Kurt from Converge is the one who told me about this, because I was obsessed with the sound on Halo in a Haystack.
Okay.
Their first record. And I think that was maybe an OS2 through like an old Trainer amp, you know. Sorry, Kurt, if I'm giving away all your secrets, but yeah. I always come back to this pedal. Let's see. Then we move on here, and then
How are you doing the ups and downs?
oh yeah, the old party tricks here.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the Boss Super Shifter, and again, it's like a whammy bar and couple of boxes, you know. So for Beast, for instance, we got that section that's like. You get that dive bomb effect. Your strings are still in tune. Yeah. Everything's groovy. And then I got the same effect for the upshift, right? So how would I use that? Oh, beginning to melt your mind. So, you know, we got the sick sort of Motorhead intro, and then the bass comes in, rumbling with that cool line, and then the guitar comes in for the little intro. Yeah, pretty fun.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Are you using the up more than the down? Or do you feel like they're about 50-50?
I don't know. Sometimes I go to hit the up one and I hit the down one by accident, vice versa. I'll hit them both at the same time and let's see what happens. So you're just kind of squealing along. You're doing a solo. Maybe you're covering Purple Rain and you're just like feeling it. You know. Let's see.
Man, I need to get two of these pedals.
They're fun, you know? Yeah.
Is that what's going on at the end of 1,000 Mile Stare? Now you have an awesome circus, fucking psychotic riff that goes through the song, but at the end of it, there's like this, like it almost sounds like a warbly record that's about to maybe not explode, but I feel like it's either a delay of some sort, maybe it's like towards the end of it before it ends.
Oh, yeah. So the solo in that song, we actually rigged up a setting on the Digitech space station.
Okay, and
You
that's
ever seen
the
one of
delay,
those
I think?
things?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, it's sort of like designed, very similar to the whammy pedal, but it's yellow, and there's like a little spaceman kind of floating there. And you're like, I want to sound like that dude, all right. And you know, we rigged up a setting that was, I think it's supposed to simulate like if you're listening to a record and you just kind of like hit the button and you stop the record player and it goes,
yeah.
So you've got this pedal that simulates that, and maybe the same effect in the sort of opposite, where if you turned on the record player and the needle was just sitting on the record, and it's like, but yeah, for the solo in that section, I sort of modulated a bit to work it out with these pedals here. So like I'm doing, you know.
Pretty close to what's on the record.
Yeah, you know, it gets the job done.
Why haven't you gone to a whammy? Because before I did any investigating or was seeing your pedal boards on Instagram as any cyber stalker does, I figured I would see a pog and a whammy.
Yeah.
Neither one of those are on your board. Because you do quite a bit of pitch shifting when you're playing in solos. You get that higher frequency kind of squeal.
Yeah. Let me think. So the Pog, that's an electro harmonics
Yeah,
pedal?
it's like it's an octave pedal, which I feel like
I've had some trouble integrating those into my board only because they cut signal so drastically. I had a Memory Man rigged up for a little while years ago, and I couldn't hang with it. Yeah, I think it was the signal cut that really kind of bothered me. You know, you'd think, like, how do you even notice with just all this wild, crazy volume? But yeah, for some reason that really stood out to me. So, but yeah, people ask me quite a bit, actually, are you using the Pog? Maybe I should try one.
maybe,
I feel like I might like
maybe
it if everyone's always
one.
asking me.
Yeah, maybe you got a bum one, but what about
Yeah.
not getting on board with the whammy right now? Is that where the PS...
Maybe they make them sort of a little more sturdy than they used to. But the one I have was it just busted on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I'm taking this on the road.
Yeah.
You know. But I have one at home. And I think it's the second model that they made, which was made popular, at least in my mind. The failure song, Stuck on You.
Okay.
You know that
Yeah,
song?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. At the very end of that, you can hear them like, there's like a ring out and they're going through all the cool settings on it. And I was like, I need that thing. And so I have one at home, but the tracking's a little busted on it. And again, it's like, if it's not going to survive on the road, then I just don't even bother taking it, you know? There's too many other variables going on to worry about if your pedal's going to work or not.
Understandable.
Yeah.
For like a song like Bandages or Bleeder, that song actually off the record, what do you do for your cleaner tones? Are you rolling off the volume or?
Do the volume roll off.
Okay.
I got the DD5, I believe it is. And I've got it on the reverse setting, which is nice because it's a little unpredictable, and you know, I kind of like that. You know, the delay signal just kind of swirls around and does its thing.
Can we hear it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'll mix that maybe with a flanger.
Right.
On the recording, I use the Boss Terra Echo, which is a really, really cool, unique delay. And I think I might throw that on my board at some point because we've been doing Bandages live. So let's see if we can get a nice clean tone out of this. You know, try to figure out my balance here. I'll maybe do like a little bit of the Dead Man soundtrack, you know? Get that Neil Young spirit going a little bit, get your confidence up, and then you can bust into something like. By the way, you know, at any moment, Van Halen's going to sue us for ripping off Ain't Talking About Love. Be great press.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we changed it enough that we're in the clear, but we'll see.
Well, if I see you in court someday, I'll know why. All right, what else we got on the board here? What's this green, the green Digitech? What's that used for?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty fun. That's the Synth Wah Pedal. And, you know, goddamn these things, they're always breaking on me. Yeah, I usually travel with a spare. I've tried contacting Digitech to be like, hey, guess what? I use the hell out of this pedal all the time, and it'd be great to, you know, get a little bit of, you know, maybe we could be friends. You could hook me up, and I'll continue spreading the good word about this wonderful pedal that you create.
And everything is dimed on this wonderful pedal.
Yeah, so
nothing subtle here.
No, no. Well, for this particular setting, it's kind of cool. It's like a sub laser, you know, just really narrow, kind of like, you know, strong, round, and loud. So
when does this get used?
This gets used. Let me think. What would be a good example of this? Well, all over the Mutoid Man stuff, but from our first record, Helium Head, there's a song called Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all over that. Give you a little example of what that sounds like. So we go into the riff, and it's kind of like, what are we doing? I haven't played this song in a minute.
I know this is like a pop quiz. I feel so bad.
Yeah, all right.
Play some of your songs for me.
Just trying to rig up my internal calculator to go to 13/8. So we're going like, so we go from like, let's see. So the riff normally sounds like this, but it's not played with a flanger.
Yeah, of course not.
Now, that riff with the Digitech pedal,
Sounds like the most evil Mick Ronson interpretation ever. It's great.
yeah, it's totally unique and weird, and you know, I tend to gravitate towards effects like that.
Yeah. Weird's good, man.
Mm-hmm.
What do we? I can see the B9. I know what that's all about, but how do you use it?
Oh, cool! I love the B9. You know, I keep saying I wish I took piano lessons.
Oh yeah.
You know, as a wee lad. So this is like the closest thing to that. We use the B9 in a few songs on Warmones, actually. Date with the Devil. The choruses of Date with the Devil. So let's see. Coming out of actually the Digitech synth pedal for the verses, we're going. It's got kind of like a circusy effect to it, you know?
Absolutely.
We also use it in Irons in the Fire. So let's see, that riff goes something like.
Menacing.
Yeah, it's like Deep Purple on steroids.
What's the one next to it there, to the right?
So that's an Earthquaker pedal. I believe it's the Pitch Bay. Yeah, this is pretty cool. It's very similar to the Boss Pitch Shifter Delay, also the Boss Harmonist, two pedals that I love. This one, just the enclosure is a little more solid. It also has a gain boost, which I don't use, but it's a cool effect to have. Plus, you can blend the root sort of accordingly. It's got its own knob on it to do that. I love this pedal. The tracking on it's great. So live, we use it for a version of 21st Century Schizoid Man by King
awesome.
Crimson. Yeah, we do the intro to that. So that sounds like this through this pedal. Pretty menacing. Yeah. 21st Century Mutoid Man. There you go. Yeah, this is a great pedal. I got it dialed in just for the octave on top.
Okay.
You know, for this sort of stuff, at the volume we play at, it gets a little muddy with the low octave, so I just roll that out.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, what we got there to the right? Another Boss.
Oh yeah, another Boss pedal. I can't get enough of them.
Well,
Nostalgic.
They're that, and they're simple to look. Not simple to look at, but like they all have a uniform look, and they're easy to find if you're touring.
I know. That's huge for us. Yeah, so this is a Boss Flanger, and you know, going back to that band Failure, their use of flanger is great because it's just harsh and noisy, especially like stuff from the first well, the second album actually, Magnified. A lot of great, just like noisy, sort of soundscapey flanger moments. And you know, we found some places in Mutoid Man. This works great. We use this, let's see, oh, for Reptilian Soul. Yeah, so we kind of dial in a little bit of a surf tone for that on the flanger, and you get a little something like this. Yeah, you know, nothing really unique about this particular flanger, but just like to kind of throw it in there at some different points. Also for some lead stuff, it's kind of nice having the guitar a little bit more swimmy sounding.
Yeah.
And then of course going back to the song Bandages, kind of mix that in with the delay, find that volume once you summon the Neil Young spirit, and you're flying.
The last pedal we haven't talked about in the top left corner is that's a head rush, right? Or
Oh yeah.
is it like a looper pedal?
Well, you can also use it as a delay and
Okay.
a tape echo, but I have it set for looping,
Okay.
which we don't really do much in Mutoid Man, but in Caven, my other band, we would create sort of these like little loopscapes, if you will, and then find a volume for them, and then play over it with, you know, other riffs, parts of the song, and yeah. It's kind of cool too because if you're not big on talking in between songs, you just make a loop.
Yeah.
You know, just blow people away with your Savage loop. Have that going while you're doing your thing, taking like 20 minutes to tune one string. And yeah. So let's see, I don't know, let's make a loop. What do I feel like looping? How about, you can do something like, you know, actually it's kind of nice for like practicing leads. You know, if you want to kind of like sort of figure out what your fingers are going to do over a certain part, you can just kind of like loop a chord that fits nicely and, you know, get free over it. So like for instance, so with this too, you want to start clean so that the loop doesn't just like cut off the intro of the chord. So you hit the button first. Pretty simple, right? Now you notice there was like a stop there?
Yeah.
So we're gonna fix that. We're gonna play over that stop. So now, we'll just find a nice volume for it. And then another trick, since this is all going through the same rig, let's switch pickups. Kind of give this top end that we're going to place over the loop just like its own little vibe, you know? Maybe we'll pick out some different pedals to use, you know? So like, let's see, throw the flanger on. Always delay, always delay.
Always.
Yeah. Because if you hit a good note, then you get
twice.
Yeah, you get the bonus of it repeating. Plus, if you fuck it up, you can hear your fuck up
Over and
over and over again, just like pounding in the ear.
Pretty much.
in the spirit world.
I felt like I should have sat down on the couch and just watched you, man. Thank you for the looping lesson there.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, there are people who are masterful with these things at this point. You know,
I know Mike Sullivan. He has one just like that, and he's Russian circles, and he just makes loops for days. Huge sound, huge sound.
Oh yeah, and you've got people creating the sound of a whole band.
Yeah.
With like a guitar and a loop, you know, with like simulating drums, vocals, and it's the whole sort of musicality of looping is just in the past like 10, 20 years is just like blown through the roof. I'm just kind of like jerking off, making some like stony shit to like tune my guitar to, you know, or just sort of zone out. But you've got people creating like a whole musical
like an
identity.
orchestra, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, one of my favorite songs you guys have done, I'm just curious about the tone that is on there, is Bridge Burner. How are you setting that up live? And I'll let you get on with your merry way.
Oh, right on. So Bridge Burner is a combination of the OS2 and the Synth Wah Pedal for the main riff of the song. So, you know, coming out of that big old nice intro where everyone's getting all excited. But we are playing it on the bridge pickup.
Dibs this time, yeah.
Yep, not the neck pickup. So we'll get that extra screaming. There you go, Bridge Burner.
Boom. Give me the fuss. Give me the fuss. Steven, I appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks.
Appreciate talking gear, bringing it up backstage, taking all your pre-show time.
Oh, right on, no problem.
Huge deal. Thank you guys. Chris Kies for Premier Guitar. Another rig rundown.
Don't forget to sign up for PG Perks, your all-access pass to exclusive gear giveaways and discounts on PremierGuitar.com.